All right, in this video, I'm going to discuss why Zillow is critical to your midterm rental strategy and also how to build a Zillow listing targeted at midterm rentals. So what do we know and what do we want to know? Well, we know we want midterm renters. We know that the competition is picking up not only because there's an awareness around the midterm space, but also because it's summertime. And then what we want to know, I think what a lot of my consulting clients want to know is the secret weapon, the secret sauce, the website other people don't know about. But more important and most important to you is that you want the strategy that is going to keep you rented. And if that's what you're looking for, that's great news, because in this section, I'm going to show you with the data how midterm rentals have been growing since 2014, as well as the secret part of Zillow that is definitely not talked about enough and is absolutely important to keeping your midterm rental rented. So let's get started. The reason why you care about this graph is because it demonstrates how competitive midterm rentals have gotten since 2020. Don't worry, I'm going to go back to the graph, but I want your attention for a second. So similar to short-term rentals, there was an initial launch period with midterm rentals that made it very easy to get midterm renters because not many people knew about them. But now there is growing awareness, and we see it in the graph around Furnished Finder. Quick note on this. I chose to use the term Furnished Finder because it is a platform for midterm rentals. If you want info about Furnished Finder, I have several links in the description for what it is, how to get started, how to think about it, etc. And I chose to pull back to 2014 because when we do that, we have 10 years of data on this topic, and we can see there wasn't a ton of interest in the site Furnished Finder or on this topic, the topic being midterm rentals, medium-term rentals, etc., until about 2020. What we are looking at here is a Google Trends report showing the instances of Google searches for the term Furnished Finder and Furnished Finders since 2014. The graph shows us two things. One, that there started to be a lot more awareness of Furnished Finder starting around 2020, and two, that its awareness peaked in the summer of 2023, which makes us think it might peak again in the summer of 2024. And this matters to you because it means you have a lot of competition at the moment, and a lot of competition means it is harder to get renters. If you're finding the data and graphs in this video to be helpful, please like this video. If you want notifications for when I put out more content, subscribe and you will always be alerted. Now let's break for a second with some good news. Actually, what I would call great news if you are a host in the midterm rental space. So when we see these peaks in the data, it means that there is more competition, but it also means that there's more people traveling during this time and needing this rental model, as well as more awareness around this model. So it's not all bad news. And in fact, there's some really good news or some really positive things to think about in the future of midterm rentals. That being that when we look at the younger generation, so the millennial generation, and in this case, I'm going to focus on Generation Z, when we think about their travel patterns, their spending patterns, the things that they care about, the midterm furnished 30+ day rental model aligns very well with their values and their core concerns. So first things first, this isn't a core value or concern for them, but they are rich. They actually have gotten out of the slump that millennials were in. To this Economist article, Gen Z has way more money. Gen Z is more likely to travel than any other generation. And really, this is somewhat of a travel category. It's a travel and stay. It's a workcation. That's what these midterm rentals are. So there's that. They're more apt to travel. Then Gen Z grew up with Airbnb. So vacationing in a furnished home was always available to them, which means it isn't a crazy leap for them or the generations after Gen Z to think about staying in a furnished rental and being comfortable sleeping in someone else's bed, relaxing on someone else's couch, thinking that a furnished rental might suit them. They are more primed to think that than the generations before them. Okay, and then a core value of Generation Z is that they care more about their carbon footprint. And when you think about that, it's a lot more environmentally friendly to rent used furniture that is already in place than it is to buy new furniture, lug it around, set it up at each new place. And finally, what I think people care about most and what is most important here is that it is easier and more fun to have a midterm rental. It is not actually fun to have your friends help you move furniture that you don't even care about across town and or have to hire someone to do that. And so the alternative to me seems much more convenient and a lot more appealing when you can just walk in and out of a rental without having to lug anything else. And it might already be a curated aesthetic that really appeals to you. And that can be true if you don't care at all or if you care a lot, right? So that's just going to pencil out in the amount that people pay. So the ones with the higher aesthetic, people will probably pay more for because a lot of people will be attracted to those. And then people that aren't as worried about the aesthetic and have more economy furniture, there's also a tenant pool for that really doesn't care. And again, they're just a pure convenience. They don't care about the aesthetic. They just want to be in the rental and be able to go in and go out. So for those reasons, I continue to feel very encouraged about this rental model and kind of see it as the future, or at least there's a lot of room for it to grow regardless of what geography you're in. The reason I'm showing you this graph is because I don't believe in pursuing small niche sites. I actually think that when you pursue niche sites that are only for traveling nurses or only for insurance companies, it actually works against you. And let me tell you a quick story to demonstrate that. And it's a quick story outside of the rental model, so hopefully you can divorce yourself from everything that you've learned or been primed to learn up until this point. So let's assume that you had met me in the spring of 2022 and I said to you, I do a lot of consulting work for real estate investors, but I want an online presence to grow the business. I'll probably go the way of video. Which sites do you think I should be on? Now take a second or two to think about the different video sites that you know of, and also which sites you might recommend to someone that wanted to grow their business to be on. My guess is that you thought either of YouTube or TikTok and maybe Facebook, Instagram Reels, etc. But you probably were not thinking about DTube, Vivo, Brightcourse, etc. The reason I bring this up is because when you go after niche rental sites, you are doing the same thing. You are going after websites that have very low volume, very low awareness, and most important, your time effort ratio to results will be much lower on those platforms than if you are on the big ones. So back to the story, it makes a lot more sense for me to be on YouTube because I get a lot more eyes on me and therefore more business than I would on one of these niche sites. And the same is true for rental platforms. Now ask yourself for a second, who are the big players in the rental market? If I was going to rent, where would I look? And if you don't know, or you don't think you can come up with an unbiased answer because you're watching this video or exploring this midterm or rental space, then I encourage you to ask people in your life. So someone your own age, someone younger than you, someone older than you, and don't tell them what you are doing. Just ask them, if you had to find a rental today, how would you go about it? Where would you look? So now this conversation around big websites and the importance of being on big websites takes us back to the Google search data. And on this Google search data, you can see that there's 3 sites. One is hidden, and I will unblur it in a second. But when we look at the graph, we can see Furnished Finder has the least amount of traffic, Zillow has the medium amount of traffic, and then this secret website has the most traffic, right? And before I reveal to you which site that is, let me say this. Zillow feeds out to HotPads and Trulia, so it's probably one of those two. But when you put your listing on Zillow, it's going to automatically go to Trulia and automatically go to HotPads. You're not going to have to do anything with that. And when we take off the blur, we can see that Trulia is the rental platform that is the secret weapon for Zillow and for Midterm Rentals because it has market dominance. And I know that because this Google Trends report is showing that it has more searches than Zillow or Furnished Finder. And what you have to keep in mind is that when you are looking at these Google Trends search, Trulia and Zillow, there's no way to combine those lines. But if you could, we should, because anytime you're on Zillow, you're going to capture the Trulia, HotPads, and Zillow searches, right? So it is far more extreme than it even looks on here when you're thinking about Zillow over Furnished Finder. Okay, you might be thinking that's interesting, but I am looking for a platform that is a furnished rental, and Zillow is primarily for unfurnished rentals, and I have a furnished rental, and that's where I want to be. So why are you talking to me about Zillow? I'm assuming that you are wondering these things, and to that, I say great point. It brings me to my second item in our agenda, which is how to set up your rental for Midterm Rentals on Zillow. There is a trick to this, and this is not the trick, but you can see here that there is an option on Zillow to mark the property as furnished. And when you do this, it goes out to everyone on Zillow, Trulia, HotPads as furnished. This is great. You are in front of everyone that knows they want a furnished rental. A cool trick to do in Zillow is to also market it as an unfurnished rental. And the reason for this is there are a ton of people out there that will convert to a nicely furnished rental when it is put in front of them, even if they didn't know they wanted a furnished rental. I see this time and time again. People are looking for a long-term unfurnished rental because that's what they've always done. That's what they think is available. And then they see your listing and they think, the furniture looks kind of nice. I could see myself in that property. I could get rid of my furniture or leave it at my mom's for the time being. I could put it in storage and this furniture would still be nicer and cheaper than for me to move my furniture. So the trick here is to move the listing back and forth between furnished and unfurnished rentals every week until you get rented. Because when you do that, you are getting in front of an even more diverse and large group of renters, and you may potentially pick up people that didn't even know they were looking for a furnished rental, which has been a scenario that I've been in more than once, where people came in through Zillow, thought they wanted a long-term unfurnished, and then when a furnished rental was put in front of them, the convenience of it converted them and they moved on it. Okay, and if you want more information about how to use Zillow Rental Manager, either of these videos should be helpful to you. And then I have also dropped a list of videos that I've done on Zillow Rental Manager in the description.